it is now time for Rex Brandstatter's Senior Talk, and that is brought to you by the Solon American Legion and Senior Benefits. Hello, Rex.
Good afternoon, Molly. How are you doing today? Happy birthday to you. Belatedly a little bit, but more power to you, kiddo. Go to it for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's greetings and welcome to Senior Talk. You bet. A great day to be here with you and a great day to be a senior, of course. Probably not a great day to be a Cub fan after last night's shellacking. But I talked to my friend Jim, and he says that he'll come back up. He'll stick his head up out of the hole starting tonight. You know, that's the beauty of baseball. You take it in the fanny one night, and the next night you could win 10-0. So that's baseball. That's the beauty of it. It's just no fun being on the short end on a deal like that last night in Wrigley Field. Well, I just wanted to say hello and thank you to each and every one of you, and it's such a pleasure to have you sit down, take time out of your busy day to listen to Senior Talk, and that's for seniors and senior gonnabes. You can't be a senior unless you have a few birthdays, so thanks for listening in, and we're going to do our best. So I will do my best to bring a lot of ideas every week that might cover important aspects of being or becoming a senior. We'll have a little time for some history as well. That's what we seniors do best. We can't remember yesterday or 2 weeks ago, but we can sure remember 1954. That's part of the beauty. That's part of the deal. Well, my name is Rex Brandstatter. I'm 75 years old, and I'm a real estate broker, and I like to meet people, talk to people, and I love to work with seniors, which is most of my business these days. So I help lots of seniors sell houses and properties, leases. I work with a lot of executors of estates, administrators of estates, trust departments of banks call me. Attorneys call me. When Mrs. Smith needs help, we thought maybe you could help her, sit down and chat with her. That's what I do. I meet with seniors. I meet with at your house, at my office, at a coffee shop, at the kitchen table, wherever it may be. Just sit and talk and see what your plans are, see what your needs are. And of course, there's no charge for that meeting whatsoever. I may be able to help you. I may not. I'll tell you at the meeting. So that's kind of the beauty of what it is when you're a senior. And not everything is in a hurry. Not everything is a disaster. You have to do this or do that. Hopefully, you're not to that level. So anyhow, give me a call. I have a senior line, 319-330-5534. 330-5534. That's my senior line. Feel free to give me a call anytime except when I'm on the air, of course. Well, this is a perfect time for you on lunch hour here to sit back and grab yourself a chair and a nice cold root beer and a sandwich, and let's see what we can cook up here today. I liking this warmer weather. This is what the doctor ordered. My car said 78 degrees, and I'm going to take it. Remember now, that's 78 above. We sure struggled through our share of crappy weather. Last week wasn't very nice. A few days since then weren't very nice. We're getting some nice weather. All right. Well, let me give you a little update here, a little farmer update, of which I'm not, but I'm out here at the studios, which is out in the country. The corn is peaking up through. You bet. Corn and beans are peeking up through, so if you want to go for a ride and see Iowa and it'll take some little bitty pictures. What's kind of fun is to take a picture today or maybe in the next couple of days of the corn and send it to your friends who aren't in Iowa anymore. Show them how little the corn is, and then send them that same picture from the same spot in like July the 4th and tell them, look what happens. All right, because they know it's supposed to be knee-high. Everybody knows that. So that's kind of what's going on. So a good friend of mine, in fact, and his neighbor, they both planted sweet corn on Monday. So we've got that going for us. We've got something to look forward to. That old sweet corn will be coming up and be ready at, mid-July, something like that. Wow. I'm going to ask you a question. Now, I see a lot of yards, they sort of need mowing. And last year there was a program called No Mow May. I haven't heard anything about that this year. I don't know if that was a one-time thing or not, but I see some homes that need good mowing, and I'm not going to stop and mow it anymore. I would like to, but I'm not. I see some business, so no mow May. Now, I ask you this question. You're a senior. You've been around the horn. I'm going to pose it in two ways. When you were a kid, if you told your dad, Dad, I won't be mowing this month, it's no mow May. Or now you're the dad and your son or daughter comes to you, whoever's in charge of mowing, and says, Dad, this is no mow May. What would your reaction when you were a kid, what would your dad's reaction have been? I could tell you what the reaction to it would have been two different reactions, and I don't know which one. I think this would have been his reaction. The hell, you say? That's all he. That's as far as it would have gone. He wouldn't even have looked at me. I wouldn't even got a good look because that was my job. I was in charge of the yard, and so or he could have said, "Well, that's fine. Yeah, not a problem." Of course, there's going to be a problem for you. There's going to be depending on my age at the time. If this was the mid-50s or late 50s, it would have been bicycle era. There'll be no bike. There'll be no Little League. There'll be no Babe Ruth baseball. There'll be no going out. You have to be here at 5 o'clock. You won't be going anywhere. There'll be no supper for if you don't work here. You're shirking your duty. We don't pay people who don't do their jobs. Or we don't feed people who don't do their job. So you see, he would have narrowed that down pretty tight. Pretty tight. It wouldn't have happened. So if I went to my dad with no mow may, that'd have been toast, absolutely toast. So if your son or daughter comes to you and says, "Well, Dad, guess what? It's no mow may," you have the option to treat it diplomatically or the hell you say, and then lay it on them. So I don't know if that's a big thing or not. I just I have to tell you, I wouldn't have had the guts to tell my dad it's no mow may. I don't think he would have even looked sideways. He wouldn't even have looked up. Not even, I don't think he even looked up. All right. Well, I got a nice call from a senior man who told me this. He said, "I learned a lot about my house last week." All right. He said, I had a plumber come over to fix a leak in the kitchen faucet. It started nice and innocent, a leak in the kitchen faucet. And he had to turn off the water. So I went down the basement with him. And he said, "Well, I knew where the shutoff valve was, but I've never used it." So I would ask you folks listening today, have you ever shut off the water to your house inside the house? You got a leak or you had to do this or that. Have you shut it off? If you go south for the winter, do you shut the water off in the house? You should consider it for sure. He says, "I knew where the shutoff valve was, but I've never used it." Well, he had a huge, big time trying to turn the old, encrusted, leaky valve off. He says, as a matter of fact, he had to go out to his truck and get a giant wrench to turn it. And he said, it's a knob. You've seen their metal knobs, and you've seen them. He said he couldn't get it with his hand. He put a pair of gloves on and couldn't get it. So he went out to his truck and got a great big pipe wrench probably. He had to get it to shut off. So then he went up and fixed the faucet. He said, we then toured the house, and after he turned the water back on, and he tried all the other sinks and toilets to see if he or I could easily turn off the water if we needed to do it. So in your house, behind your toilet, each toilet, if you look down there where the main tank where the water is, you look down there, there'll be a valve down there, and usually it's a football shape. Those are usually round, or sometimes, a lot of times, they're a football shape. And for today's test, remember, if you're a senior, you might not be able to scrunch yourself down in there. I don't know. I'm doing okay so far. But you just might want to give that a half a turn one way or the other. Usually it's a turn it to the left is off, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, so you might want to give it a clockwise turn to see what happens. Try it either way, see what happens. If you can't do it, then if you had an emergency, you had to shut that toilet off, you might need a new valve, all right? The valve from the street to the house also needed to be updated inside the house, that is, okay? So my little phone call to the plumber to fix the leak was costly. He said, we toured the house and tried all the other sinks and toilets, and he said the one underneath the kitchen sink also was easily turned off, but one of them in the bathroom, not the toilet, but a sink in one of the bathrooms didn't work good. So usually these things, if they have a little bit of a leak ever, start to get encrusted and cruddy looking from the leak. It's got all the calcium and all that kind of stuff in it. Folks, it's not a good deal. So this guy said, he says, the valve for my little phone call to the plumber to fix a little leak cost me $800. But he said it was well worth it. He said it would have been a real issue if we had broken a water line. So my question to you listening today, do you know where your water shutoff valve is located? Is the main valve crudted up and inoperable? Well, where is it in the first place? Does your husband or wife or other know where it is in case you're not home? Oh, guess what, Bill? We've got a leak. Go shut the water off. Or Bob or Mary, Jane. Go shut that most people won't have a clue. They're down in the basement somewhere is what everybody hears. Down in the basement somewhere. Well, you should have that located. Matter of fact, there's a company here in town. They hand out stickers, kind of like you put on your luggage sticker with a loop on it and a cord type of thing, short with identification number. It says water valve. Absolutely. And that's why I have those on the ones at the main one down in the basement. I have that to do that. All right. Well, that was just, I appreciate that guy calling. Too bad it cost him $800, but he said he was all for it once the guy was there. Of course, the plumber, honestly, I don't know that he was trying to drum up business. In the meantime, he did, but he's just trying to help the guy. As long as I'm here, let me fix that and fix all the other ones, which probably saved him another 2-3 service calls and a pain in the rear afternoon sometime too. Well, a nice sounding senior lady says this: I just decided to replace the flooring in my kitchen. I've had it. Tired of looking at it. It's old. And she says, I've actually never liked it. So she said, I went to a local flooring store, carpet, flooring, all that stuff. And wow, there are so many ideas, so many products. The sales lady was very friendly, and we looked at a lot of things after I explained why I was there and what I needed. So then she said to me, are the wood floors or the wood-looking floors a good choice? And I said, well, there's a large difference between wood floors. Now, we have wood floors in our kitchen area. I don't have any problem with it. I don't know if my wife likes them or not, but don't tell my wife, but we're not going to change them. I don't care what she says. I like them. So the wood floors, so sometimes you don't want to get water on them. You never really want to get water on a wood floor, but you have to treat it for something in case you do. The wood-looking floors, like a laminate type of thing, those are very popular. If you go to new homes, you see lots of different ones. It's kind of what you prefer. You would also talk to the flooring people about what I suggest you do is if you do that, I suggest you take a picture of what you have now. Take a picture of your kitchen floor, show you standing there, or show a chair so they can see how big it is, looks like, and take a couple pictures, show them what is there, and tell them what you want. Here's what I was thinking. They'll show you some products. It's a nice upgrade. I'm not going to say your house is worth any more. You have it, but people really, really like the laminate flooring. It's a big deal. It's much more conducive to stain resistant, and leaks and things like that. It's all related to what's underneath it, what they have to do to lay it down. That's the story. And it would be hard for me to sit here as a real estate man and say covering up wood floors is a good deal. If you cover it up with carpet, at least you can pull the carpet back. If you put other products down that's glued down or thing like that, it's hard to get them back up, and you've just covered up some pretty nice, expensive wood floors. So do your homework. Get what you want. I would just be careful if you're covering up wood floor. That's my thing. All right. A senior man advises this: our 2-car garage seems so small. Well, in a man's world, ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as an oversized garage to a man. No such thing as an oversized garage. I see that listed on listing of houses all the time. Oversized garage. Well, there's no such thing as an oversized garage to a man. All garages, no matter how big they are undersized. So this guy says, all the new houses have 3-car garages, and we only have 2. He says, can we build on? And I said, well, the answer to that is maybe. Well, for a point of clarification, the 3rd-car garage, as you see these newer homes, the 3rd garage is usually the place for lawnmowers, snow blowers, lawn chairs, bicycles, things like that. Garden supplies, rake shovels, things like that. They're very popular and very much needed. I understand that. I venture to say the 3rd-car garage sometimes is not a full car. Sometimes they're a little bit skinny, but you get a garage door, of course. But it's the perfect place for those things like I just mentioned. So the answer, can you build on, is this. Here's how we're going to answer that. We're going to answer it like this. Well, when I was a kid, and I was all excited when my dad added a 1-car garage. Remember, he said when he built that house, I remember him I was just a kid, he talked to my mom, well, someday we're going to have a garage, but he said, I don't want it to be attached to the house. I wanted it to be a breezeway in between. So what he did was he poured concrete to make a breezeway level, between it, and then about, I'm going to say 12 feet out, then he built a single car garage. So we had a garage, and then you go into a covered breezeway, which had storm windows and storm doors, and then double hung windows, so that had screens in the summer. It was pretty nice. In fact, my buddies and I used to sleep on our breezeway in the summer. We'd sleep in the yard until it started to rain or something like that, and then we'd all go in our breezeway. So my folks liked it because we weren't in the house. So anyhow, that's how we used it. So the answer to this man building on it was maybe, and I said, here's the deal. You may or may not be able to build on. Here's the deal. There are side yard setback rules, so you can only go so far to the edge of your property, front or back. Front or back. Now, you see some houses in older parts of Coralville, we'll say, hills, a different area, Iowa City, they built a big two-car garage in the backyard. Well, that's not going to cut it anymore because now they have setback rules. Standard is 25 foot, have to stay back, and that'll cut out a lot of these two-car garages in the backyard. And I always thought that wasn't good because now you cut out the backyard, which is a great place for activities and this and that and the other thing. I never saw a two-car garage back there, but a lot of people do it, so that's what it is. So side yard setbacks, backyard setbacks, driveway access ideas. Where you put that third garage on, you're going to have to widen the driveway. You have to get permits. You're going to tie it on. There's a guy in Coralville building on right now, and they're building a different roof line, so now the contractor has to tie on the roof line. There are electrical challenges because you want to have a garage door opener out there, electric, and the drainage ideas. Maybe you considered having a floor drain. Well, you've got to meet with the city on that. Matching the siding and decent lighting out there and flooring treatments. A lot of people are not just putting a cement floor down. They're getting it's an epoxy-like. It's kind of advanced past epoxy. I have epoxy flooring on our house, garage floor, not our house, on our garage floor, and I have epoxy flooring on my shop where I keep my stuff. I put epoxy floor in. Now there's new improved things like that, and they're pretty darn nice. Weatherproof, waterproof, scuff-proof, stain-proof, pretty darn nice. So there are a lot of choices going on here. And then you want to have what they call a man door, walk-in door. You want to have a garage door. You want to have a garage door that's insulated, non-insulated. You want to have insulated in the walls, up in the attic. You want to have a garage door with lights, with the windows on it. There's 1,000,001 decisions. But before you make any decisions on anything, get a contractor to come out and get a bid or a couple of them to see if you can afford it. How's that sound? You want to do that before you get started. And yes. When you come, if you can afford it, well, sign a contract. Make sure your contractor is licensed and insured. Absolutely. Make sure they're insured in case somebody falls off the roof. And what are they going to do? They're going to come and guess what they're going to do. First, they're going to sue you because they fell off the roof. That's the society we live in. So make sure you deal with it. So see how this is easy? The guy just wants to build on the third garage, and I've muddied up the water for him. But I've muddied up the water in a good way. Okay. So that's when. And then I said, finally, all that stuff under your belt now. Call a contractor, and I would, if you know a guy, or I don't know if women own construction company, call a construction company and have them come out and give them all your ideas, and they'll make a big list and come back to you. All right. A senior man says this: we are thinking of selling, but my brother says don't forget the taxes on the profit. A senior man says we are thinking of selling, but my brother says don't forget the taxes on the profit. Well, I took that to mean the senior man says that he's selling his own house, and his brother says, well, don't forget you're going to have to pay some taxes. Well, if you sell your house that you live in, you can write this down if you want to sell the house that you live in, and you live there 2 out of the last 5 years. Maybe you haven't lived there for 3 years, but you lived there for the 2 years before that. That all counts. So you sell, and if you are married, filing jointly, just husband, wife, you're selling your house, you've lived there at least 2 out of the last 5 years, there are no taxes, ladies and gentlemen, on the first $500,000 of profit. Now, if you pay $200 and sell it for $400, that's only a $200,000 profit. There's no tax. If you paid $200,000 and sell it for $800,000, that's a $600,000 increase. Now you're going to pay tax on $100,000 because the first $500 is free. All right. Now you're living there, and you're living there by yourself. You're never. I don't know about never been married, but you are right now. You're the sole owner. Single filing separately. That's what it is. Now the first $250,000 is tax free in profit. So if you paid $200,000 for it, you sell it for $500,000. That's $300,000 gain. $250,000 is free. 5 taxes on $50,000. That's the way this works. All right. If this was from your spouse, answer is no. If from a relative, have a meeting with your attorney. So, will I pay taxes? That's a good question for your attorney or tax advisor. There's another scenario we're going to talk about here in shortly, if I remember. Of course, anytime you say you're going to do something as a senior, you always want to say, if I remember. Rex, last week you talked about driving skills. I've been telling my 85-year-old mom that her driving is atrocious. She says, I've been driving since I was 15 years old. And that's not a good defense, ladies and gentlemen, not at all. I'm suggesting that you round up your brothers and sisters or other family members, if there are any, and you have a little conference between yourselves, not with mom, and lay out the fact that maybe your brother lives in Wyoming and your sister lives in California, and you got a brother here in town, but you all should have some sort of a meeting, even if it's a Zoom or a telephone call, and lay out your thoughts. Mom's driving is atrocious. You might say, well, I looked at mom's car. She's got some scratches or dents on it. Where they come from, she doesn't know. You could relay things that maybe the others don't know. Maybe they do. That mom does have a trouble kind of walking, and you've noticed that her reactions aren't good. That's not good if you're driving a car, for God's sakes. So I suggest you have a family meeting first. In the old days, you called it like a powwow. All right. And I want you to think of the others. Think of the other people. Think of the people who may be affected by your mom's atrocious driving. You can back over the grandkids, back over the kid next door, drive down the street and get distracted and swerve into the ditch and kill herself, for God's sake. All kinds of things can happen. Now, if you know your mom's driving is atrocious, then, in my opinion, it's incumbent upon you to do something about it. And the other thing you could do is, if you all agree, you can go to mom and say, Mom, we've got some issues with you driving. We all voted. All of us, all 3 of us or all 4, we all voted. Or just you, if you're the only one. That we don't think you should be driving, and mention the fact she could harm herself. Oh, that's okay. I've been driving for 7 years. She could harm others. Now she'll start to clam up a little bit. She could back over, run over the neighbor kid, the neighbor lady. Drive down the street, and as she's 85, maybe she could have I guess we all could have a medical issue, but have a medical issue more likely than anybody in their 40s, and all kinds of issues. So it's time to do something. Now, if that doesn't work, you might go to an attorney and see if you can't get to be power of attorney for your mom. And in that case, if power of attorney, she'd have to sign it. You then have the power, rather than just being the nasty daughter, we'll say, to take away her driver's license. You can also take her to a doctor and say, we're going to go to the doctor and talk about this. I'm worried about your reactions, and your sight is not the best, and your hearing is not the best in case the fire truck's coming behind you, and ambulance, stuff like that. Mom, it might be the end of the line for you driving. Now, that's the good thing about it. If that's the deal, then that's the deal. Now, here come the bad things. But you have to weigh the good things first. The bad things are, how's mom going to get to the grocery store? How's mom going to get to church? How's mom going to get to pick up her meds? How's mom going to get to her card club? How's mom going to get to her hair appointment? So what my brother and I did was this. We had the talk. We saw the dents in the car. But mom seemed to be, we both met. We met with her together, and then we both, within the next 2 weeks, we both met with her separate, and then tried to come up with the game plan. And we limited her to before dark, couldn't be out. couldn't go, if you will, we live in Coralville, so she couldn't go on the Coralville Strip. You'd have to use 5th Street, anything else, couldn't go on the Strip. That gave her the right to get to Hy-Vee and things like that. And if she needed to go to a hair appointment or something outside of Coralville, that she had to tell us so we could see how she's doing that day, and or we would take her. Now, my brother lives in Cedar Rapids, so he was all for that because that meant I had to take her around town. So that's what we did. So we went to that worked for a year, and then one day we said it's not working. She's kind of a pain in well, how do you call your mom a pain in the rear? But she was getting to be that way. I need to go this, need to that. So we went to her. She said, we're going to take your, we want you to not drive anymore. She said, good, I don't want to drive anymore. So that dodged that bullet. And then we became a taxi service. She did have a lot of friends, and a lot of friends picked her up and took her to her card games and all she did. So it worked out great. And the big thing is she did not pass away due to a natural causes. She did not cause an accident, get in an accident, take somebody else with her, for God's sake. So it's a big deal, ladies and gentlemen, so the decision isn't easy. But once you know that mom could endanger herself and or others, it's pretty clear what you need to do. All right. Well, another man says to me, he says, don't ever forget that it's kind of tough if you come home and you get locked out of your house. I said, you got locked out of your house? Yes, we got locked out of our house. What did you do? He says, well, he says, we went around as seniors. He said, we're seniors, so it's not like we can boost each other up to get into a window. So we tried the storm door, and not only was it locked, but the deadbolt was locked, as we all know we should be. So, okay, that's fine. And he said, finally, we couldn't take it anymore. We called my son, and he lives in Washington, Iowa, and he came up with an extra key. And he said, we felt so bad calling him, but we knew he had a key on his key ring. I said, did it ever occur to you to have an extra key? Well, yeah, about 1,000,000 times. I never did anything about it. I said, could you get into the garage? No, I couldn't even get into the garage. There's a man door there that's closed and locked, and, of course, the garage door won't go up. I said, all right, here's what I see. So he said, we finally called. So he said, thank God I had a cell phone. They finally called a locksmith. He came over, and within about 20 minutes, and $90 later, he got us into our house. So here I am, throwing myself at your mercy for advice. I said, well, that's pretty easy. Here's what Rex does. Rex has an extra key that you won't find. All right? Outside. You won't ever find it, but I know where it is. I told my brother where it is. Told my wife where it is. She knows where it is. I have a realtor lockbox, which you can buy at Lowe's or I suppose Menards has them. I don't know where else. A realtor lockbox with the push button kind, not the fancy kind we use on your house, but an older, a different kind. And you make up your own code, and I have that on the outside of a house on a door knob. So I have it. It's safe. The bad guys can't get to it. I can get to it. Inside there is a key to my house. So I can get in. So if you're going to put a key outside, it can't be underneath the rock right next to the door. It can't be underneath the, I was going to say underneath the milk box. Nobody has a milk box. So it's got to be somewhere only you know where it is. And, or give it to the neighbor. Whatever you do, don't get locked out of your house because it's just, it's a pain. I mean, it's just, A, you can't get in your house. B, it's embarrassing as hell. So have a plan A. I'm not going to call it plan B because have it plan A so that you don't have to have that worry anymore. All right. If you have a lockbox, in that lockbox, you don't have to load it up with things. They're not very big, and the bigger one you get, the more you pay, which is fine. So I want to tell you a story about a friend of mine, a banker friend of mine. I was in the bank one day. He says, you got a minute? And I said, sure. He went in. He said, you won't believe the story I just heard. I said, all right, what is it? He said, well, a bank customer came in today, and he says he's 98 years old. I said, all right. And so he said, he came in, and he said, he's talking to the banker, who I'll call Bob. Bob, I'm having trouble with my lockbox. So Bob, the banker, says to himself, well, who could possibly have trouble with a lockbox unless you didn't have a key? So remember, ladies and gentlemen, it takes 2 keys to get in a lockbox. It takes your key that the bank gave you, and it takes the bank's key. Now, the problem is this. The bank will never lose their key, but you will lose, or as I say it, misplace things. I didn't lose it. My wife, I just misplaced it. She rolls her eyes. Well, when you find out where you misplaced it, then we'll do it. So a lot of you don't know where your bank key is. I know that. I could see you looking at each other right now, and one of you is looking out the window and rolling your eyes because you know it's you. If you can't find it, then probably you're going to have to go to the bank, have them drill it out, put in a new lock, and give you 2 new keys. Give them themselves a new key and you a key. It's what it is. So look high and look low. Oh, I don't think it'd be in that drawer. Well, look in that drawer anyhow. You never know what you did with it. So back to the story. The guy said, I'm having trouble with my lockbox. Well, what could be wrong with the lockbox? He said, well, I'm missing some things in the lockbox. So what do you think you're missing? Well, some papers. That's all he would say, some paper. So Bob, the banker, says, well, what do you think's happening? He said, it takes 2 keys, your key and my key, to get in there. And he says, you have to sign in. So Bob, the banker, went out and looked at the sign-in sheet, and he had not been in there for quite a while. They went back a month. He hadn't been in there or so. He said, I think I might even be missing some money. He says, I think what's going on is somebody's going into the one below me or to the side, and they're reaching over and getting in my lockbox. So, ladies and gentlemen, have you looked in your lockbox lately? The opening for the lockbox is about 1/99th of an inch wider than the lockbox and 1/99th of an inch taller than the lockbox. So the lockbox just goes in there, and there's the steel walls in between, aluminum walls, metal walls in between. So this guy was thinking that somebody was he thought from below was going up, put their hands up, and getting into his. Now your lockbox, once you pull it out, also has a door on it, kind of like a hood of a car, kind of opens up. It's impossible. It's just physically impossible. So my buddy Bob the banker, he's dealing with a customer now. He has to be customer friendly. He said, we're going to look into it. All right. So he figured the old timer was gone. Well, so Bob the banker didn't do anything. And of course, he didn't mention names, and I don't care who it was. So he's not telling stories on his customers. But he said it's a scenario, but it's a true scenario. He said about 2 months later, in comes the old timer again. Well, hi, Bob. How you doing? Fine. What's cooking? Did you ever get to the bottom of my lockbox problem? He said, no, we never did, but we're really working on that. We're trying to see if anybody else has had problems. We've been talking to different people. And, of course, Bob's rolling his eyes and hoping he goes away. Well, the old-timer lived to be 102, and that was his last visit to the bank, they think, especially for the lockbox issue. But they did their best. They absolutely did their best. So that's the story. So now I want to give you a heads up. The weather's nice. You have the perfect opportunity to raise that garage door, look around, and load up the car and get rid of some things. I have worked with so many people in the last 30 days alone, who tell me we can't believe we have this much stuff. We can't believe it. Where did we get all this stuff? One guy says, I looked up in the attic just for fun. He says, all kinds of stuff up in there. He says, I don't even remember putting anything up there, but he says, all kinds of stuff up there. He said, now I'm a senior. I don't want to get up there. I got to hire my grandkids to come over here and get it down for me. He said, that'll cost me, which is fair. So that's the deal. Get that garage door open, ladies and gentlemen, and get that garage thinned out. Lots of stuff in there. Cleaned out. Going to be nice. Maybe hook the hose up to it. Squeegee it out. Get going. It'll give you a nice breath of fresh air to freshen up your own home. Now I've got something else for you. If you live in the city limits of Coralville, next week on your regular garbage day, that's Coralville Upper Toity Talk for Garbage Day, on your garbage day, actually the night before, set out the things you want them to take. It's free. You cannot put tires out there, sheetrock, construction stuff, and just crappy old nasty stuff. You can put an old barbecue grill out there. You can put we got over in the corner. We've got a cement block. Where'd that cement block come from? Put it out there. You could put old fishing poles out there. I put I gave some golf putters to the Veterans Administration for veterans. They want golf clubs, and I gave them 5 or 6 putters, and I said, "Here's a bunch of putters that don't work." And the guy started laughing. I said, "Yeah, I don't suppose they do." I said, "They don't work, so you get them." So you could put them out there, and in all honesty, when you put things curbside, that means it's fair game for anybody. If you put it between the curb and the street with the intent that it's garbage, it's fair game. So you're going to have, in Corville anyhow, you're going to have people show up, check out your barbecue. Maybe you got an old bike with only one tire, or God only knows what you got in your garage, you know. And a lot of people put things out there, and they'll put a little sticker that says, "Works fine," so the people know. They'll put things out that says it needs a new battery, you know, stuff like that. Why not? And maybe those guys who pick it up, maybe they're going to sell it. So what? They're making a living trying to do that. You got rid of it for free. That's the goal. Free. You didn't have to pay to the dump to take it away to the landfill. You didn't have to do anything. You had to get it out to the sidewalk. You had to get it out in front of your house. So that's the big carrot for you Corville folks. Wow. All right. That's what needs to happen. All right. So it kind of breaks my heart to tell you this, that the students will be leaving in a couple weeks. Just breaks my heart. Yours too, I'm sure. You know, it's a rite of passage that we get rid of them in the spring, and they'll be back like geese in the fall, but it's time for them to leave here pretty soon. If you notice around town, you've probably been, maybe if you have grandkids or kids, you've been involved in high school proms, and we're going to have graduations on the horizon, and a lot of proms have been held. Speaking of that, where was your graduation? Did you attend? Is the place where you had your high school graduation still there? Did they tear the school down? Did they move the graduation 2 years after you left to a different school, or if they merged? Do you remember it well? Do you remember the pictures or what you did before and after? All the fun you had with your buddies and maybe your girlfriend or your boyfriend? Sure you did. But on the horizon, the near horizon, is time for summer jobs for high school and college kids. And I always thought that was great fun, getting a job in the summer, because you got some money in your pocket if you worked. There was no question we were going to work. We mowed grass. We did everything, anything to make money in the summer, because that was our money. Do you remember some of your summer jobs? What you got paid for? You probably laugh yourself. We got 85 cents an hour. I started with L.L. Pelling Road Builders, 85 cents an hour. Hottest, crappiest job. A week later, since I showed up every day, I got a raise to $1.15, ladies and gentlemen. God, that was a tough job. How about your pay rate? You remember that one? Did you meet your spouse at a summer job? Aha! Did you ever save any of the money from your summer job, or did you just go the intent of having some money in your pocket and let her rip? So that's kind of what lots of students do. So those are things as seniors. Maybe you could remember some of those days way back when about your graduation or your prom. Maybe you didn't go. Who knows? But maybe you didn't graduate. I don't know. But back then you had a summer job of some sort, and you kind of got started. It's kind of fun to sit back and think of the things when you were a kid that you thought. We're going to talk more about what you could do in the summer, what you did in the summer pretty soon. So, to all my friends, my veteran friends out there, to all the American Legions across the one, and all you seniors listening, that none of us never know about our tenure here on planet Earth. No guarantees were ever granted, for sure. So knowing that, as seniors, we are headed down the backstretch, and I advise the following mindset. And here's the following mindset that I'm thinking we should all consider, is to do all you can while you can, whatever that is to you. Do all you can while you can, because, folks, we are coming around that fourth turn as seniors. So, thanks for listening. My salute to all of you veterans who have served our country and all those who are serving. So this is Rex Brandstatter from Seniors Talk saying thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. So long.
Your life is always changing, and a lot of things can affect how and what you save. So a good retirement plan changes with your life.